Welcome to the Collector's Archive. Interface access loading. File Rohan from Rohan's Corner.
Right. Good evening, Rohan. How are you, sir?
Good evening. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Splendid, thank you. Splendid. Busy day, but we're at evening time now, so I can relax and hopefully, we can chat some good toy and collecting goodness, and have a good laugh about it as well.
That's what life is all about, right?
Yeah.
if you can't do that, then what's the point?
Yeah. Enjoy it. Don't take it too seriously.
Absolutely. We're all big kids at heart.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. We might physically age, but I don't think we're still still maybe running around the playground with his toys. And
at least the toy shop.
Coats round your neck like a cape or something.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Getting into it. If you want to take a brief moment just to introduce yourself for people who may not be aware of who you are, and so go for it.
Yeah, hey everyone! If you haven't seen my my little corner of the YouTube, I am Rohan from Rohan's Corner, and I do a little bit about everything. I've been collecting Transformers for a long time. I'm into GoBots. I've got Mask, and then there's other robot-related franchises. I'm also part of the Transformers the Show every Friday. You can catch us on YouTube. Have a little 5 or 10 minute segment there where I bore people to death, and have a catchy theme tune which I sing myself. So come and join us.
Excellent. I didn't realise you sang the theme tune.
It's a bit of a funny thing, yeah. So I don't know when it first started, probably about a year ago. I started singing the G2 theme tune as my entrance video. And then off the back of that, I started doing other random cartoons. So I did Hong Kong Phooey. And at the moment, I've got from How I Met Your Mother, I've got the Barney Stinson video resume song on there, which is just a bit of fun, really. I think everybody says it's terrible, but it's so terrible, it's funny.
It's like budding Dennis Waterman, write the theme tune, sing the theme tune.
Pretty much, yeah, absolutely. It sounds good in the shower, not so much on the video.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm sort of like, we're all sort of like, Pavarotti's in the shower and things like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's a good job there's not much crystal glass there, else it'll be able to shatter.
But while you're having a shower, that's not a good idea.
Yeah, no, definitely not. So we've got the introductions out the way. Like I say, people are more than likely will know who you are. It's because Transformers the show. I've been watching that, and I'm sure a lot of the people that'll be watching this will watch that as well. So we're going to get straight in with the topics at hand.
Sure.
And so, if you just want to tell us, just expanding on what we were saying there, maybe just say a bit of. Tell us a bit about, where you grew up and also into that. I know we can see from the backdrop that you've got there, but, what your current collecting focus is.
Sure, yeah, no worries. So I was born in North London and grew up in West London, actually, so London boy through and through. Moved out to Berkshire about 4 years ago with my family. Been collecting Transformers since 1987. I think I was 2. There's quite a funny story how I got into it. My parents were a bit worried that I was obsessed with Thomas the Tank Engine. So my dad went out and he bought me my first Transformer, and lo and behold, now they regret it to this day that I still collect them. In the 80s, sort of mid to late 80s, I was really into pretty much all things robot related. So Transformers, GoBots, and then of course later on Mask and a few other sort of Hasbro Kenner type franchises and other bits and pieces, which we'll talk about later, which really sort of took me to where we are today. And I haven't really stopped, to be honest with you.
Right. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, there's GoBots and Mask. We will get into that a bit later on, but yeah, I've more experience with one than the other, so
sure.
I'm sure when we get to start talking about that, I'll be making notes and I'll be taking it all. It'll be a good educational part that will that.
Awesome.
So at the moment, then, Aaron, what shapes you're collecting now? Then what's your motivations behind it, and do you actually have any particular goals? Goals to it?
So I guess this is a three-pronged question because when we talk about Transformers specifically, I'm like you. I've got a very Generation One focus. So growing up, I was massively into the cartoon. I was born in late '84, so I pretty much missed all of the entry into Transformers. I missed the comics. I missed, the first season, if you like, of the show and of the toy line as well in late '84. So as a result of that, all of my exposure to Generation 1 came from like the video shop, and we would go down there and we'd pick up season 2 episodes, the movie, a couple of season 3 episodes, and that's where I got all my Transformers from. So I am totally engrossed in characters from the cartoon show. So in terms of Transformers collecting, I pretty much just try and collect all the characters from the original cartoon. That's for my Generation 1 collection. So that's pretty much done now. I've got most of those out of the way. A few little bits of upgrades, kind of like yourself, find something slightly better. And then at the same time, I haven't let go of mainline. So Transformers Generations, as some people call it, Chug. I still collect the updated versions of those Generation 1 characters. So I've got the latest, like we were talking about earlier, Menasor, and some of those characters that are coming out again now from Hasbro. And the oddballs, which aren't from the Generation 1 cartoon, which take my fancy, which I still pick up as well. And then at the same time, I also am collecting Generation 1 Legend scale characters, so third party from Magic Square and New Age and Mech Fans Toys and a couple of other manufacturers. Obviously they're on a much smaller scale. They have a lot more articulation and posability, and the aesthetics of how accurate they are to the tune is ridiculous. Because I went down the masterpiece route and I found it was really good, but it was expensive. It was large. I didn't have the space for it, and I find Legends kind of hits that sweet spot for me. So those are my three main focuses for Transformers. When it comes to GoBots, I'm pretty much open, to be honest with you, to whatever I can lay my hands on, because it's hard to get good GoBots figures these days because they're such dinky little toys. The original molds was sort of small, very easy to transform. You could just pick one up and play with it, but they had little accessories that would get lost or broken, and after this many years, the die casters, painters all rubbed off and the such likes. And then so GoBots, unfortunately I had to sell my collection back in 2017 when we moved house, and so I'm sort of starting from scratch a little bit and picking up bits and pieces as and when I can. Now it's original stuff, and then also things like KFC Toys have done a Psykill figure, and Action Toys have done some updated figures, bits and pieces like that. And then when it comes to Mask, so I've always been a big fan of Mask. Me and my brother used to watch it as a kid. Again, like GoBots and like Transformers, all my inspiration comes from the cartoon. And I basically, again, had a reasonable connection back in 2017, moved house, sold it off. And then now I've started to pick up a few more bits and pieces. I just love the fact that they're sort of in between Transformers and G.I. Joe. You get a little bit of both. So some transforming vehicles with some little figures, and you can create play sets and have fun with them. So that's sort of my goals in terms of my collection right now. Right,
Excellent. Well, I just wanted to quickly ask you about when you were talking about your G1 collection. I mean, we'll go into this further down the line, but when you say collecting like from the card, the stuff you're collecting, does it span the whole of the cartoon, or are you just sticking to a particular series?
No, so unlike some people who go for like season 1 or for the art crew or just movie characters, I am pretty much every character that came in the cartoon, including the oddballs. Like for example, at the moment in Transformers Legacy from the Generations line, we've got Devcon, who came in like one episode of season 2, right? And that for me is great because I love that character, and I know he's a one-off, but it's those little nuances that I really enjoy, the one-off bits that now I'm starting to get to the stage in my collection where we've had characters of like Optimus Prime or Megatron 6 million times. How many times have we had a good Alpha Trion or a good Devcon or a good Elita 1? It's very rare. So those are the ones I'm starting to get really excited about them when they start doing them really well.
So what's at the moment then? Have you got anything new that's new in your collection? There's a few parts to this question. So what's new in your collection? What's next on your radar? And have you any current orders you're waiting for or pre-orders? And then finally, is there something that you would like that isn't available yet that you would like to see made available?
Yep. Oh well, that's an amazing question for to begin with, right? So in terms of what's latest in my collection, I picked up a massive haul last week, and it must be well over 200 pieces, and it's a split between Mask, GoBots, and Transformers. Just
Right.
been up on my channel last week, so
Yeah.
check it out. But
Yeah.
it's it's a real variety of bits. I've got vehicles from Mask from the original series, which is kind of story-led series, going into the racing series towards the end of that show, where they're doing more races between the factions, the
Right.
good and the evil. And then from a GoBots perspective, there are a few little GoBots in there, plus a boxed Rock Lord vehicle, which is quite rare, and the GoBot combiner called Puzzler, which is
Yeah.
6 little cars that transform into a combiner, which doesn't have exterior parts, unlike the Transformers Gestalts. It's all built in, which is really cool. And of
Yeah.
course, it's all cars, which is really appealing to me. So yeah, I was really pleased to get that set. And then of course, Transformers. There was a huge number of Transformers, primarily from sort of 1980, sort of late 85 onwards to about 1992. A couple of
Right.
early G2 pieces in there. So
Yeah.
that was really cool to get that set. It looked like whoever had owned that had put it in these boxes for, I don't know, 30 plus years, and they had been sat
Yeah.
there literally
Right.
gathering dust and other bits. I won't
Yeah.
gore you, tell you the gory details, but yeah, it was such an amazing find. So that's my latest bit.
Right.
In terms of current orders and current pre-orders, primarily it's stuff that I'm pre-ordering at the moment is only really Legends class, because
Right.
when it comes to Hasbro bits and pieces, I've learned over the last few years that don't go in straight away. Just wait a little while, look for the sales. They're pretty much coming out at RRP and going down within 6 months. And unless it's something I absolutely want and must have, so for example, DevCon we were talking about just now, and Beachcomber have come out in the Legacy line, and they were discounted by Amazon this week by $5 each. So I thought, okay, their deluxe figures are going from 25 to 20 or 19. I'll pick them up. I know they'll probably go down a little bit more, but I'm happy to pay a little bit more for them now because I really want them. Whereas the rest of the line, like for example, the Nemesis, which is the big Titan that's coming out from Hasbro this year, the ship from More Than Meets the Eye, the Decepticon ship. I do want that. I really like it, but it's £190 or something silly, and you know, all the Titans have come down in value at least a little bit. So I'll just bide my time, see how it goes, and then pick that up. So a couple of the bits that I have gotten pre-order are Magic Square are doing their Bruticus at the moment. So I've got, you might be able to, no, you probably won't be able to make out from behind me. Brawl and Swindle I've already got, but Onslaught has just come out, so I'm expecting him coming anytime soon. And then Vortex and Blast Off are the last 2 limbs to create that set. So I'm really looking forward to that. And at the same time, New Age, who also do Legend Scale, are doing a diorama of the Ark crashing into the mountain. That looks absolutely fabulous. So I've pre-ordered that. I don't know what the price is yet, so that might shape whether or not I get it. And it's supposedly made out of like tiny little Lego style bricks, thousands of them. So that'll be interesting to see how that turns out. But I'm really getting into my dioramas now and that sort of thing, which is why I've got that iGear Teletran 1 set there behind me, which I love. So yeah, all those sorts of bits are the kind of bits I'm really enjoying, and I'd love to see more play sets, to be honest with you. Like for example, with the Nemesis, instead of it transforming into a huge husking female Decepticon, which is great, I would have preferred if it had been a playset. You could open it up and put your figures in and play with them. You know, whether that be core class for Hasbro or for me, Legends Scale figures. Or I've really gotten into, we were talking about earlier, XTB Jensen and Jensen, from their Scepter, and he came with those tiny little minifigures. I collect those little minifigures, so I bought MP Skyfire to get the little ones from there, and now I've got like 6 of them, and I love them. So putting those onto little display pieces, that would be fantastic for me. That's sort of where I'm really at with my Transformers. From a GoBots and a Mask perspective, just get my hands on whatever. I'd love to see updated versions of the 6 main GoBot characters. So, you know, Psykill was one of my favorites as a character. Coptor, also a favorite thug of mine, and then Crasher, the 3 evil renegades, and then the 3 main Guardian GoBots, Leader 1, Turbo, and Scooter. I'd just like to have them in a generation scale style, tune accurate, and, you know, just those 6. At least that would just make me so happy. And as you said, you know, if they can bring Mask back in some way, either through the movie franchise or just as a side toy line, there's so much they could do with that. It would be great.
As a kid, there was a point where, I mean, we again, this is something we'll probably get onto a bit later on as well, but I'll just briefly say here, there was a point as a kid I actually had more GoBots than Transformers.
They were really affordable, right?
Yeah, and that was why, because they were more pocket money friendly option than Transformers. I mean, Transformers, you had the mini bots and that was it. And then after that, then there was a. I know nowadays it doesn't seem like a big jump in price, but back then in the 80s, you know, 84, 85, jumping from like $2.99 up to say like $5.95 or $7.95, it was a lot, you know. So.
And we were kids, right? At that stage, you, like you said, you had pocket money to spend. You didn't have a job where you could, you know, you fulfill your collecting needs with all your income.
yeah. So, but no, I've always been a fan of GoBots. Even I can even recall seeing them very briefly just before Transformers on the toy shelves, but like as Machine Robo, I think it would have
Machine
been.
Robo, correct.
And because some of the bigger ones that I had were the Machine Robo, so I had like Spacey,
Super GoBots,
and then, but like I say, it came in a Machine Robo box.
packaging,
And then the other one that came in a Machine Robo box was I always forget his name now. Is it Her Fiend? Is it the tank?
Yeah, Her Fiend. Oh no, the tank was oh cracky! Now you're testing me. Her Fiend was one of the Porsches, the 928.
Oh yes, he was. Yes,
the black one.
Yes.
The tank. Oh, you really test. I used to have a Destroyer. I think he was named.
Right.
And
what I liked was the gun barrel you could attach to his arm.
Yep.
You know,
and
like
he had working treads, and the barrel was and his head was made out of the actual turret itself. It was such a cool toy. Still is, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it is. And the one I never had, which I keep my eye out, is Stax. I'd love a Stax.
Oh, I'm not going to tell you, but in 2017, when I sold my collection, I had a boxed Stax, and he came with his trailer and the full
gift
figure
set.
as well. Yeah, the gift set. Oh, it's a beautiful thing. I really wish I hadn't sold that collection now, but it went to a good cause. It went to our friends who come to TF Nation and take the earnings for charity. So, I can't really complain.
No, but it is a nice piece, so I do keep my eye out. But like you say, I'm one of those particular collectors that I like to try and find it in a particular condition and state, you know. So, but we'll get there eventually, I'm sure. So, out of the stuff that I can see out on your desk there and things like that, but I don't know what a better term to put it. But what is there a particular piece at the moment that you're digging on? You know, like as in, when you come into your office and sit down, it's the bit that you pick up and just have a little fiddle about with and that. Because I know that if you're anything like myself, I go through a phase where one week it may be one particular figure, then another week it might be another one where it just catches my eye or my attention. I'll just spend a while just messing and playing about with it. So is there something like that for you at the moment?
Yeah, there's two sort of avenues for this. One is so my son is 3.5, nearly 4 now. So he comes into my office all the time and he wants to play with bits. So he picks up the little Micromasters and he wants to fiddle with them. So we play together with those and he loves that. And then at the same time, there's a couple of the single target masters that came out at the back end of Generation 1, the likes of Quick Mix and Scoop and Landfill. And those, again, they're simple. He loves the alt modes because they're construction vehicles. So we play with those together. If I were to pick one for me, I would probably say Jesus, I've got so many bloody Transformers now. I would probably say at the moment it's going to be something. Actually, one of the Action Toys GoBot set that I picked up recently. So
Right.
there's quite a few of them. I got 7 of them, and characters like Fighter or Tank and also Blaster. They're some of my favorite characters from the show, and I did have toys of them back in the 80s and went before I sold my collection, but these are they're based on a masterpiece style of articulation and transformation capability, and so they just bring it a bit more to life to me. So yeah, they're the ones I'm enjoying playing with. But if I'm totally honest with you, I prefer simple Transformers that I can just pick up and flick around with while I'm doing my work. When I'm sitting on a webinar or on a conference call where people can't see me, then I'll just pick one up and flick around with them, because it's more fun, right? You can just flick it back from one mode to the other and have constant fun with it.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah, I do recall seeing those. It's Action Toys, isn't it?
Yes, Action Toys. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because I picked up the bigger version that they did, the Cycle.
Oh, that was the one with the proper toon accurate face. I never got him. He's awesome.
Yeah, I picked him up, but he's been and gone now. I sold him off a while ago. It's a shame, really. I wish I'd have kept him, because it was a nice figure. But I think part of the reason why I sold him was there was some other stuff I wanted. So there was a batch of Transformers and GoBots that I put to one side to sell to fund another purchase. But also as well, I think I kind of got a bit bored of waiting for him to do a same scale Leader 1.
I don't blame you. Yeah.
Because
they showed off their prototypes and they never came out, did they? And we're still waiting. It's sad because that was awesome, that figure, as you said.
So, back to the questions. This is the bullseye question. This is my best Jim Bowen impression. Your family's safe. That's in your back pocket. You don't worry about that. So what's your rescue item, Rohan? Something's happened in the house. You can dash back in and rescue one piece. What is it going to be?
It's such a hard question to answer, right? I mean, how do you determine what's your favorite? I think at the moment it would be as many of the Takara book reissues that came out in the early 2000s as I could lay my hands on. I've got quite a few of those. I've got Megatron, I've got the larger set Skylinks, some of the G1 cars, and Fortress Maximus as well. But those, represent so much value in my collection. Flip that, and I've also got, from my time at Hasbro, prototype Cybertron Jetfire figure. It's the Legends one. So it's only this Diddy, but it's got stamped on it, not for sale. And that's something that's unique in my collection that I would never be able to get again, basically. But all of that aside, it's got to be the items that are sentimental to me, which is the first Transformers that I got. So my dad bought me G1 Overload, was my very first Transformer, the little Micromaster transport set, and then G1 Chrome Dome. He was my first actual cartoon character that I got. So those two, I think, for me, would be the ones that I would rush back and have to have. Of course, I've got so many, just like you, right? I've got thousands upstairs. Where do you start? Whichever ones you could get your hands on and put them in the car.
It'd be like supermarket sweep, wouldn't it? It'd be like, look, there's a shopping trolley there, right? I'll be back in a minute.
Totally.
Yeah, shoveling that. I know, and I think that's why I asked that question, because I think for some people it is such a difficult question.
So hard.
And it's not to try and trap them. It's basically. It's to just see the passion that people have.
Get a feel for it.
What particular item that they've invested in or they've got their passion in. Because the next question I'm going to ask is, and and the reason why I ask this as well, again, it's not to trap, but I do know that some people may choose a different figure, and that is, what is your favourite piece out of everything you've got at the moment? Because I know, I mean like I said, myself, I could run back in the house and pick something out to save, but it might not necessarily be my favorite piece.
Sure, absolutely.
So
no, you're absolutely right. I mean, some of the ones I've just mentioned to you are more sort of from a financial perspective, or they're bits that you could never get again. Whereas my favorite piece is probably going to be something like the I can't remember the name of the manufacturer now, Pangu Toys, Omega Supreme, who I got recently, which is the cut down version of DX9's Omega Supreme into Legend scale. It's just such a really fun toy. It looks exactly like Omega Supreme. He's got a little light up sort of part on his arm there. He transforms into his space shuttle, and he looks exactly the right sort of thing. And as I mentioned to you, I've got those little minifigures. You can play with them and put them around. It's just, I just love it. It's just brilliant. And I mean, I find myself putting you into nice little poses, and that's the one I think that brings me the most joy at the moment. But it will be easily replaced when the next really cool Legends character comes along. I'm sure it's one of those.
Other interests outside your core collecting focus, then, like other toy lines, franchises. Do you want to give us a bit of give us a bit of information on that?
Yeah, of course. So obviously we talked about GoBots and Mask, but if we were to say what are the other cartoons or comics, TV shows, movies, that sort of thing that I enjoyed as a child that have influenced me to today, there's quite a lot. So I mean, obviously Transformers was very much core to pretty much everything that I was interested in, but after Transformers and GoBots and Mask, there are other series like Cops. I don't know if you ever saw that, which was again a Hasbro product. It's based in the future police force taking on technologically advanced baddies in the future of some American city, and it's pretty cool. They've got some really good vocals and some interesting characters, and the main character's got like a bulletproof vest, and they have some of these transforming vehicles in it, so that's caught my attention. So it's got a really snappy theme tune. And then things like robotics. I don't know if you ever came across robotics, but in the 80s,
I've heard of that,
very similar to Transformers, but it was sort of a mini series of episodes that they squashed together to create a film out of it. And a lot of the voice actors from Transformers and GoBots actually lend their talents in robotics. The theme is pretty much the same. It's a bunch of humans crash land on this planet where some sort of natural disaster took place, and whatever was the natural inhabitants of the planet had to go underground and put themselves into these robotic mechanoids, quite similar to GoBots in a way. And they end up having this fight between the two factions, and it's the same also. But it's a great little series that turned into this awesome little film. And so if you've got an hour and a half, it's worth watching, I would say, robotics. And then if we fast forward into sort of the 90s, there were things like BattleTech. I really got into that, and I know there's a big following in terms of BattleTech, in terms of the games and the real-time strategy element, but I was really into the cartoon and into the toy line, and also into the books as well when I was a little bit older. And again, on that same sort of theme, Bots Master, which is much later, it was a 3D cartoon which had transforming robots, or robots which had sort of nuances about them, but it was a lot more new age, so aimed at kids. And that's a quite interesting storyline for me. And then some of the bits which are not robot related, because there's a lot there that really is things like Wacky Races and Flying Machines, Dick Dastardly, those sorts of things. As I mentioned before, Thomas the Tank Engine I was absolutely obsessed with up until about 2.5, and Winnie the Pooh, things like that. My parents got me into. But then I sort of, these are all kind of influenced by cartoons, right? So obviously a very visually stimulated person. And the other thing is G2 Comics we talked about earlier. That was pretty much my only exposure to comics, I would say. I didn't really have a lot more, and I didn't really get into music as a child until I was about in my 15 or some sort of age like that. That's when I really got into the likes of Beast Wars and Beast Machines, because when they first came out, I looked at them and I thought, what is this? This isn't Transformers. It's animals that turn into like robots, but they're like actual flashy type animals as well. They're not Dinobots, they're not Predacons or whatever. So I was really against it at the beginning. And then, as you said earlier, when Animorphs came out, I was like, that's it. Transformers is dead to me. What is this garbage? And that's Hasbro's fault. They just slapped the Transformers brand label on Animorphs, didn't they? It wasn't actually a Transformers product. But later in life, when I got a little bit older, a little bit wiser, I went back and rewatched Beast Wars and Beast Machines and realized how amazing are these cartoons. The storylines and the characters and the depth, and it's so good. I've done a recent YouTube series on Beast Machines, just talking about how it's underrated. It's such a great show. And all of these bits I think have all contributed towards my journey. But yeah, I think Transformers is still very, very core. Transformers, GoBots, and then Mask, very, very core to my collecting habits. Yeah.
Right. So, you've kind of condensed two questions into one there, which is fine. That's cool. Is that? I mean, it how it flows is fair enough. But just elaborating on that, then maybe fleshing it out a bit. Are there any particular toys and games that you played with as a child that stand out to you, and like, you know, any favourites that you can remember?
Yeah, there definitely are. I mean, so I was born in '84. My brother was born in '87, and so I brought him into Transformers, GoBots, and Mask, and he brought me into a few bits and pieces. So, you know, in the '90s there were Crash Dummies. I don't know if you remember those.
Yeah, I've heard of them. Yeah,
little dummy characters that went into vehicles, and you swing them into the wall, and they blow up, and little parts flying everywhere. It's quite a funny little cartoon as well, actually. So yeah, Crash Dummies, he got me into those, so I enjoyed that. Sabutio and Scale Extric and Hornby. He was well into his trains, my brother. So, and he still is. He still collects Hornby. So we got into those bits and pieces. I think Sabutio and the equivalent, I can't remember what it was called now. There was an equivalent copycat set that we had, which we had until we moved house, and then Crossbows and Catapults, which is being relaunched at the moment. We had the full set, and I sold it when we moved house. But it was a cool little set, and I loved that. You know, the little playability. Yeah, absolutely, and that, you know, fling your weapons at the person that you're fighting against. And then I remember when I was really young, we'd go up to my cousin's place and we'd play on their Amiga 500 and play some of the old school games like Lotus, and there was a fighting game, a jiu-jitsu game. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head now. It was really funny. You'd be fighting, and then all of a sudden the character's trousers would fall down and you'd be like, it made this funny noise. And you're like, what's going on? Everyone would go like that on the screen. It was really funny. But yeah, some of those games were really cool. And yeah, these were the bits and pieces that we played together as a child. Those are the sort of happy, good memories that I've got of growing up with playing a lot with my brother, because we spent a lot of time together, obviously.
Right. So the Transformers and train set thing then.
Yeah.
Did you ever get the Transformers train set?
Oh, I would have loved to have got that, but unfortunately we were probably a bit too late in the game, if that makes sense, because, you know, by the time I got into Transformers properly, it was sort of 87, 88, maybe closer to the 90s, and those sorts of bits would have come out like at the peak in 84, 85 sort of thing. Would have loved to get our hands on it. I did pick up a lot of the board games and a lot of some of the other memorabilia. In fact, we'll probably talk about this later, but because I worked for Toys R Us and also for Hasbro UK, I've got little bits and pieces from both where, you know, I could say like some of the signage from Toys R Us, for example, all random bits and pieces, things that you wouldn't normally get in the collection.
I do. That train set is one of the it's one of the pieces I keep my eye out for.
So expensive.
Yes, very expensive. That and more bizarrely, I mean, because I find myself now looking more at the obscure merch side of it. You know, peripheral stuff that even some of it that would say it was 100% officially, you know, licensed, let's say. But there was one piece I had as a kid, which I no longer have, but I would like to get back, and it's the Soundwave Design Center.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's a cool little piece.
I think it was it Bluebird that did that?
I think so, yeah.
And I remember when I got that would have been probably early 85, I think I got that, mid-early 85. And that would double up as my Devastator.
Nice.
You know, because it was just so big compared to Transformers. You know, but I would use all the, like, you know, the drawing bits on it and things like that, you know, and he had a pair of scissors in one arm and a pencil sharpener in the other, and he pulled his head out, that was a ruler, and
all the creativity.
Yeah, it was a great piece. It was a great piece. I got that from an Asda Superman.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I remember getting, but so I do keep my eye out for that. The other thing I keep my eye out for as well is I have them individually, but I don't have the gift pack of the 3 Ladybird books with cassettes, the Telltale books.
Yep.
So Autobots Fight Back, Megatron's Fight for Power, and Autobots Lightning Strike.
It's quite rare now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've only seen one probably in the past few years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the chap, it was on eBay, the chap was asking for 90 or £99 for it.
Yeah, it's a bit
But
heavy.
it wasn't complete, as in it didn't have the plastic window cover that slid over the top.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like, I've seen the individual carded ones come up.
Yep.
You know, they've been between £20 and £30 a piece. But yeah, that gift set, because I had that, and I'd listen to it and read it, but then I'd put it back in and then slide it under the bed.
Look after it,
Finished with it.
You say it's those random bits of merch, those unique pieces that are hard to come by now, that are so much. I mean, don't get me wrong. Obviously, the figures and all the toys, but I think once you've gone past all of the G1 collection, then that tends to be where you go, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I've got a set of G1 marbles.
Nice. That's awesome. I don't think I've seen those.
You know, I'll have to dig them out. I'd have to do a photograph of them, but I think there's like Sideswipe and Jazz. They're just plastic marbles with like a small picture on the inside.
Very cool.
But the thing is, I've no idea where they came from.
Yeah.
I didn't have them as a kid, so I must have picked them up with a collection or something, or you know. But so sticking with the toys, then before we move on. Is there a standout memory of a toy that you got maybe while you were on holiday or Christmas or a birthday?
Yeah, I've got 3 actually. So on my second birthday, I've got a picture of me on the bed with Power Master Prime in the box, and it must be in '87, and or 80, maybe it was my 3rd birthday. It was one of those 2, and it's just like, the box is bigger than me. It's just one of those things I'll never forget, and that's a standout one for me. And then in 1992, we bought, my parents bought for us for Christmas, G2 Megatron, and kept him under the bed. And I knew where he was, so I used to go and play with him. And he came with the little G2 Megatron watch as well. I don't know if you remember that.
It was a little green tank, wasn't it?
Exactly. And it'll light up, little battery in it, and you could pop out and see the digital time on it.
Yeah.
I think I've still got the watch element. I don't have the strap anymore. But that was another standout memory for me. And then the other one is probably back in... No, actually, I'll save this for a later question if that's all right.
Yeah, no, that's cool. No, that's cool. So... Yeah, I'll have to think of a way to rephrase this one, but I'm just going to read it as this. So it's basically, you know, we grow up, you know, we move on from toys.
Yep.
Now, I know some collectors that I have spoken to, they didn't stop; they actually just kept on collecting all the way through. You know, whether it be Transformers or whatever, there was always bits that they did pick up. But for some of us, I mean, like myself, I did come out of it and then go back to it. But for you, did you move on from toys? And if you did, do you have any memories or recollections of a last toy? I mean, maybe not the last ever one, but maybe towards the back end, one of the last ones that you got before you decided, right, that's it now, I've done with those kind of things.
It's a great question, and I was racking my brain trying to remember. I can vividly remember the ones that got me back in, because to your point, I collected all the way up to about, I don't know, mid-90s, maybe 95, 96. In fact, we got a couple of Beast Wars figures from Argos. It was the 2-pack of Optimus Primal and Megatron, where Optimus Primal was a bat and Megatron was a crocodile. And we got that set and we were like, okay, it's different. And then we watched Beast Wars and we're like, where are they? They're not in the show. We were so disappointed. Anyway, so we were collecting whatever we could get our hands on at that stage from Transformers. And I think one of the last things I remember was the Lightformer G1/G2 Iron Fist. He was out in, I think it was Debenhams of all places, had got him on sale because they had this stock forever. And I picked him up and I've still got him. He's a really cool little figure, little Humvee with this massive turret on the top, which extends down with the light bit on it, and it's hard to find these days. So that was probably my last one, and then or at least one of the last ones. And then if we go forward to what got me back in, in 2000, we took a trip out, or was it 2001? I can't remember. 2001 maybe. We took a trip out to the States as a family, and we went to Toys R Us, and we pretty much just went supermarket street, pulled all the RID figures off the shelves, chucked them in a whole suitcase full of RID figures, and brought them back to the UK. I had Prime, I had Scourge, I had Ultra Magnus, all in their boxes, Ruination, pretty much all the robot to vehicle ones. I didn't collect any of the Predacons but yeah, so that was me. That got me back in really hard, actually. RID was such a great segue back into Transformers for me.
No, that's cool. Again, you're beating me to the cut on these questions.
Yeah, sorry.
You're doing me out in a job here.
No, not at all. In fact, actually, there's one more thing I'm going to add to that question that you were going to ask me, which is, what was, the circumstances or a particular item that brought you back in? I think I was 16 and we went to Spain on holiday. And I don't even remember, Toys R Us was still around in Spain, and they had these bargain bins in the store. And for 100 or 200 pesetas, we picked up pretty much all the G1 Classics limbs. So, all the Protectobot limbs, all the Stunticon limbs, all the, Combaticon limbs. And we were just like, these are like, how much? Just get as many as you can. And, mint on sealed card they were. They were just like giving them away. But my parents were like, why are you still collecting this rubbish? No, we love it. Yeah, I've got to take it. But yeah, that was that's really what my sort of memories are. I think I had a slight lull between sort of 96 and 2001. But other than that, like you said, I've pretty much been collecting non-stop.
Yeah. No, I it's the classics line. I mean, I was out of collecting by the time they came along, and I do remember seeing them on the shelf. And not having Optimus Prime as a kid growing up, I remember seeing Optimus Prime in the classics packaging.
Sure.
But I can remember not being moved by it because, like I said, I'd moved on to other stuff. But I mean, classics line came out when? Would that have been 92? Was it 93?
I think it was 90. Yeah, around that sort of time. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I left school 91. I was at college for 3 years, then I started working. So it just, I was doing other things. There was,
of course,
beer, women, and cigarettes and cars.
That seems to be the common things that people tend to talk about when they go out collecting.
And
don't blame you.
So it's like when Beast Wars came along, they didn't register. At that point, the only thing that did register with me at that point was Batman the Animated Series.
Oh, nice, yeah.
I did watch that, but
That's
everything
cool.
else just dropped. So, but when I got back into collecting, I remembered seeing, because there were still quite a lot of them about, and they were being sold off. The people were selling them a bit cheaper, the classic stuff.
Yes,
but I just ignored them because they weren't in the original packaging. I wanted the G1
the originals,
stuff, the G1 packaging.
Yeah.
So they just passed me by. Yeah. So right, we'll get back on the questions then. So next one's going to be then, what is it you enjoy most about collecting?
Yeah, this is a really good question as well. So as my dad would say, it's all about the chase for me. It's all about finding that item that you really want, or maybe it's a holy grail, maybe it's not, maybe it's just a general mainline item and you just want to get it, but you want to get it for a really good price. Then that's what brings me a lot of joy, is like finding something that I really want or really couldn't find or really want to have at a really good price, and then having that item can be enjoyable as long as it doesn't have a lot of QC issues or break apart in your hands. You don't want the gold plastic syndrome issues and whatever. But that's I think that's for me is the most enjoyable part. I know that. Now, we'll talk about that later. There's completism elements that can cause you to lose a little bit of interest in bits and pieces. And for me today, it's more about variety and it's about what you enjoy. It's what you like, the look of. That's what I would say. It's all about the taste.
Right. And on the flip side of that, then, what do you dislike most about collecting?
Yeah, this is the hard part. I mean, obviously, there's, like I said, there's the completionism element where you think, oh, well, I've got that, so I've got to get that. Or, I think probably if I had to pick one thing, it would be you think you've got the exact figure that you've always wanted. Say, for example, the upcoming Studio Series Ultra Magnus, which has been shown off recently, the Commander class figure, and it looks brilliant, right? And you think, wow, this is it. This is going to be my de facto Ultra Magnus forever. And then a year later, Hasbro come out with a slightly better version, and you're like, oh. Now I've got to sell that hunk of junk to replace it with that. And that's probably the worst thing for me. And I do quite a bit of buying and selling. And in fact, people have seen me at a couple of conventions buying and selling, and even as far back as Auto Assembly as well, when I used to have a little stand there. But it's hard work, and I would rather be in the position where you've got exactly what you want. But then if I say that, then that's contradictory to what I said before about finding the chase, and it's a vicious circle, isn't it, really?
No, it is. I understand what you mean about the chase, though. I mean, even though, as we discussed earlier, my collection's pretty much done now. I just, like I said, buy to upgrade or to replace.
Sure.
But even now, if I'm scrolling eBay or if I'm looking on sites or if I'm speaking to other collectors, if I see I'll see an image of, say, a loose, incomplete Ironhide or Mirage or Sideswipe, I still get that emotion. I think, it's Ironhide, and then I'll remember you've got it boxed over there. Because when I got back into collecting, like it would have been 98, maybe arse end of 97, 98.
Mm-hmm.
You could go to flea markets, you could go to second-hand markets and choice, and they were just there.
Yep.
They were there ripe for picking.
Plentiful,
and they were next to no. So you could, I had a load of stuff that I picked up initially loose to complement what I'd already had from childhood.
Sure.
But then as the newer stuff came out, reissues and things like, I can remember it would have been, I've forgotten the name of the website, and then someone I was speaking to a few weeks ago reminded me, because I was saying, there was this website I used to buy from, and I can't remember the name, and they just turned around and said, you're talking about Zyber Toys, aren't you?
Yeah.
Like, that's it! Yes, Zyber Toys! I remember getting the Jafcon Optimus. So the regular one, the black one, and then the Magnus, the Delta Magnus, and then the shining yellow Magnus. And I got all those
from Zyber Toys
back then. Yeah. And when I know how much I paid for them, because they're still on a spreadsheet how much I paid for them. And I look and I think, I wish I could buy them for that now.
Get a second set for that now. Yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah.
I mean, I've still got all the others. The only one I don't have is Shining Magnus.
I got you. Yeah.
I did sell that one, which is I
wish
beat myself up about that. But
it's one of those, isn't it? At the time,
it is.
You think,
Well, this is the thing about, which I'll briefly say, is that I'm happy with my collection.
Mm-hmm.
And my collection's where it is because of what's come and gone.
Of course.
So it's I've had them, I've enjoyed them, and they've gone on to be the care of somebody else who hopefully is cherishing them and looking after them as well as what I did. It's what it's all about.
Indeed.
So with that, and talking about that collecting thing and that chase, as you said, if you could go back to 2000, 2002 and have a chat with your younger self, what advice would you give yourself regards collecting?
It's a really good question. I think if I could go back and say to myself, don't be such a skinflint, just buy as much vintage stuff as you can afford, basically.
Right.
Because I was in that sort of stage where you were looking at figures on eBay, like you say, or Yahoo auctions, as we were back in those days.
Yeah.
I remember Zyber Toys from Auto Assemblies, and there's so many times I would go to either to a convention or looking online or whatever, and I'd see like a vintage figure, like you said, or maybe a classics figure, and it'd be like 20 or 30 quid, and I say, oh well, that's about 10% more expensive than it should be, or whatever. But now, obviously, it's ridiculously much more than it was in those days. And you're like, well, if I'd known that, I would have bought them all and stuck them in the loft. And as my dad always used to say to me, never open them, just leave them in the box. Now I'll probably get 4 of everything and have 3 of them in the box and whatever. But it's a different kind of mentality. It's not enjoying it. And when you're young, you don't have that capability to do all. You want to crack it open and you want to play with it. And so that's the one piece of advice I'd say to my younger self is, just buy as much as you can, basically.
Now, it's probably going to be different then, because the next question is, it's a variation on what I've just asked you, and that is, what advice would you give to a new collector that's just starting out now? Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be Transformers. I mean, it could be anything else, but just someone who's, someone's approached you and said, look, I'm thinking about starting collecting. Yeah. What advice would you give them?
I think this is a really easy one, actually, because in the last few years, I met a really good chap called Rudy Suzu. I'm sure you've spoken to him many times.
I've spoken to Rudy,
And Rudy is the epitome of what I think everyone who you collect should be like, and that is, you collect what you love. You collect what you like. It doesn't matter whether it comes from this line, from this franchise, whatever. Get the best of it all and put it all together. Who cares if it's a robot next to a beast, next to a human being from G.I. Joe, whatever. That would be my advice to a new collector is, just go for the bits that you really enjoy the most, because otherwise, what's the point? You're just going to be completing for the sake of completing. And okay, fair enough. That might actually bring you some value in the future. But if it doesn't bring you joy, then it's not worth it.
No, it's good advice. I think I'd be pretty much the same. It's just collect what you want to collect, or whatever catches your eye, or what you have a passion in. I think there's a few collectors that are swayed by. I think they get in this rut of thinking, right, well, I've got this, so I have to have this, and I have to have this, and then there's the completionist aspect of it. There's also some collectors that maybe they do have an attachment to it, but I think maybe they're collecting because they're maybe seeking some monetary value further down the line, or they're collecting thinking that they're going to have a legacy to sell on and things like that. Which, fair enough. I'm not one to tell people how to collect, but people collect for whatever reasons they want to collect. But I think first and foremost, it's about having fun and enjoying, and I think that's what it should be. Because the collection I have, it's not a big collection, but it's okay. It does me, and I'm happy with it. But I think maybe 30, 40 years from now, it may not be worth what it is now. Chances are it'll probably be worth less than what it is now, because there'll be no one around that has a connection
appreciates
to
it.
To appreciate
it. I agree with you.
And I've said to my children, when I'm not here, do with it what you want. If you want to sell it and buy yourself something with it, that's great. Or if you want to keep a piece, you keep a piece. But it will become in their care, and it'll be up to them what they do with it. So
whatever brings them joy.
So I think I think for collectors now it's, but I also as well, I kind of, purely from a Transformers aspect, I kind of feel sorry for collectors in some respect now. Especially if they're going down the route of, say, G1, vintage stuff, because it's just so expensive.
It's ridiculous, absolutely. If you try and get a G1 Megatron, like even the reissues now are pushing £300, so try and get an original, it's madness, absolute madness.
So it is a shame, but that's why I think that I think newer reissues. I think maybe Takara's due for a batch of reissues, maybe.
Agree. It would be nice.
It would be nice. It's like the new movie line that they're doing.
Yes.
They're great.
They are cool.
Not for me personally, because it's doubling up on something, and I prefer the toy looks to them rather than painting them up to look like the cartoon.
Sure.
But that said, the hypocrisy creeps in, and it's like, I know for a fact that if they do an Optimus Prime, I will get the Optimus Prime. I know I will.
And let's be
Because-
honest, they're going to
right.
do him, right? I mean, why would they not, right?
Yeah. The one that there's a group and one that I hope they do.
Hmm.
And I'll ask you this question because you may know the answer to this, but
Yeah.
this will come after I've said this bit. I don't think they'll do a Megatron.
Yeah, no, it's hard. Yeah,
Yeah, unless it becomes, say, a Japan exclusive.
sure.
Then there is a possibility.
Yes,
But I think
yes.
for the US and the UK, I don't think we're going to see
No,
it,
I agree. Yeah,
which is a shame.
Yes.
It is a damn shame.
yes,
The others are the Dinobots.
yeah.
Now,
Especially the lights that they can come out like Swoop, for example. Yeah,
yeah. Now, the last I heard, I mean, the molds obviously still exist because we get
Sure.
the KO Dinobots.
Yep. Mhm.
But this is the question I'm going to ask you now, which
Hmm.
I'm not sure of the answer, and hopefully people are watching. It may help to inform them. But there was a press release that Hasbro did a while back,
hmm
and it said that they were making available to other companies like schematics and drawings and
Mhm.
things like that. Does that include the designs and drawings and the patents for the G1 toys? So then these companies can produce those, or does it exclude that?
Yeah. So I don't know for sure, but my take on it would be I highly doubt it, unfortunately, because
Right.
there's so much IP rights or so much value that Hasbro still see in those
Yeah.
rights. Like
Mm.
I couldn't see them licensing them out to someone else to manufacture because Hasbro could make more money if they did it themselves, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it would have to be someone who has access to build things cheaper than Hasbro with the die-cast parts and be able to do it
Yeah.
that way. And
Mm.
and knowing the way in which Hasbro UK, when I worked there for 2 and a bit years, knowing the way in which they operate, I just can't see it. It's not their style. They
Yeah.
would want the profits.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like I say, when I read that press release, I was just a bit unsure myself. I thought, is that going to cover? Because I know that they said something about opening up the IP intellectual rights to the franchise and to
Mhm.
merchandise and things like
Yep.
that. And I was like, oh, I wonder if that'll include so
The
other
toys.
companies could produce maybe some of the figures that Hasbro didn't want to produce.
Yeah.
So maybe say the Dinobots, where they
Sure.
don't have the tooling for it,
Mhm.
where another company could say, right, okay, well, we'll invest, we'll make money for the tooling, and we'll
Yeah.
produce them, but yet Hasbro still gets a kickback from that.
Yeah.
If you pardon the pun.
No. It would have to. Well, that's a good pun. It would have to be a huge kickback, wouldn't it? And I think that Hasbro's idea with giving those rights out is to give these companies the opportunity to do something new, like RoboSen, for example, do something new that they couldn't do, they don't have the expertise in,
Yeah.
but to continue enhancing the brand and bringing new avenues to it and new revenue streams. And
Mhm.
I'm really hoping that RoboSen does well because it's obviously got a huge following and it's a ridiculously good product, but it has a price point to it as well. So obviously it's got a very high price point to it, which not everybody can afford, right? But
No.
maybe it could be something else, like those silly little Optimus Prime and Megatron ducks that they've done. Those little, little funny things like that. All these random bits, but it's the merch, as you say. It makes it look slightly different, right?
What aspects of the collecting community do you like and dislike? So this is about the collecting community, not collecting, but the collecting community.
Yes, and you know what? This is such an apt question because I think after COVID and after the sort of scenario we've been in for the last few years, I've had my ups and downs with the collecting community. So back in the day, before sort of the internet was a big thing, and before we all had access to all the ability to buy Transformers anywhere, the ability to see all the cartoons anywhere. If I go back to the very first auto assembly I went to in 2003 with my brother, I think I was like 18. We went there and we started watching. They had up on a projector screen one of the early episodes. I think it was Changing Gears, season 1 episode, and I looked and I thought, what is this? I've never seen this before, because it wasn't available on video, and
No.
I'd missed all the series when it came out on TV because I wasn't around, right?
Yeah.
And so I was just like, wow. And I went home and on dial-up 56k, I was using my dad's connection to download these episodes, like 200 meg, and they were real media. They were tiny, a horrible quality, but
Yeah.
it was just like, oh my god, there's so many episodes which we missed out on. And I think that was one of the best things about the community, was that there's all these people who had so much knowledge, and they were so happy to share in the passion and the environment. And I think through COVID and through lockdown, and you know, that brought everybody together, and we saw it again from a community feel. And then obviously nowadays with Transformers the show, being part of that group has brought me really close into, you know, a community feel, especially on Facebook, because I'm quite active on Facebook on the group, and also on TFW a little bit as well.
Yeah.
But back in the day, for me, it was Transformers at the Moon and the Mapes brothers and their little website that got me into it. But unfortunately, what happened is I started working for Hasbro in 2005. And as a young runt, I was a little bit vocal about how badly I felt they were doing things. And what happened is one day I was at work on Transformers at the Moon and typing in there about how they sucked about something, and I got caught. Someone caught me mid sentence. I'd gone off to do a job or something, and they found me. They were like, "You can't be writing this stuff. You work for the company, right?" And so I got pulled up for it in HR, and I was like 18 at the time. I didn't know any better. Maybe I was 19, whatever, and got reprimanded. And then after that, I had to take a step back from the community, unfortunately, for a few years, and just sort of distance myself until I think it was 2008-9 when I left Hasbro, and was still kind of affiliated with them because I had put my hand up to go and do auto assembly on their behalf. So I had a stand there at auto assembly, and I was showing off some of their exclusive figures and bits and pieces. At that stage, then it became, you know, okay, I don't work for the company anymore. I'm still representing them, but I can have my own kind of community discussions, and that was really cool. And I think, you know, to answer your question on the negative side, I would say it's the monetary side of it. It's the back in the day when auto assembly was a convention about getting together and the opportunity to buy stuff, whereas nowadays obviously we have so much access to all the toys. Any day of the week you can go online and buy anything you want, really. There's no more holy grails, so to speak. Okay, there's very, very rare stuff, completely brand new and whatever, from the 80s, but on the whole, I think it's the money aspect that, you know, things like going and meeting friends and having these community things is really expensive now. It doesn't really make any sense. If you just want to meet up with your friends and talk about Transformers, then maybe we should do it on an online kind of manner. And the same thing goes for Hasbro. I think they've changed a lot since Brian Golden had passed away, and unfortunately, you know, it's sad to see that he passed very soon after having stepped down as the CEO of Hasbro. And he was sort of the last ilk of the Hassenfeld variety, if you like. So when I joined Hasbro in the UK in 2005, Alan Hassenfeld, who was the nephew of the original Hassenfeld brothers who started the company, was running it, and he stepped down, passed it on to Brian Golden. Brian ran it for many years, and he did a good job in their sort of guise, if you like. But now Chris Cox has come along, and he's got a different mentality. He's a lot more of a kind of a businessman, which is fair enough, right? You know, they've got to make money, but it's the, you know, overpricing aspect. It's the lower QC aspect. It's the pushing it down your throat aspect. And some of this is rubbed off in the community in a bad way, in which, you know, people are starting to get a bit elitist about collecting and about, you know, oh, I must have this and I must have that. Well, no, you don't. You know, get what you can afford, and don't go and push yourself out the door, and don't rag on someone else because they like this or they like that just because you like this. And I know I'm guilty of it myself with things like the movie stuff, and you know, I know that a lot of people don't like GoBots. I love GoBots, so I'm representing. It's almost like an anti kind of thing, to be honest with you. The more people hate it, the more I get involved in it. So I like to be that underdog. But I think that, to answer your question, those are the positives and the negatives about the sort of collecting environment, if you like. And Yeah, as I say, I worked for Toys R Us first, a couple of years there, really enjoyed myself there. You know, selling to kids and selling to other collectors was just brilliant. The ability to showcase the toy line. And then after that, working at Hasbro was a bit of a dream come true. I remember when I left there, my boss said, you know what, Rohan is so lucky. He comes to work every day with a massive smile on his face because he loves the product through and through.
Yes.
And the vice president of Hasbro UK, in fact, he was the vice president of Hasbro Europe, he said to me, we need to keep more people like you in this business because you are the people who enjoy the thing the most and so will bring the most value to it moving down the line. And he tried to get me a job in marketing because that's where they make all the decisions. And unfortunately, the head of marketing, she didn't like me because I had made those comments online about their department basically and how inept they were. And they didn't have any aptitude towards the brand. They were people who were in their careers. They were doing their jobs. They did it to the best of their abilities, but you know, they weren't absolute fans like we are, you know. And so as a result of that, I had a different attitude. And, you know, looking back, maybe I was a bit, you know, naive and a bit silly in the way in which I did go around things. But at the same time, there were other people in the organization who picked up on how much passion, as you said before, we all have for this, and they took me into things like, you know, some of the meetings with the buyers. And so I would be actually, even though I was there as an IT guy, they took me into meetings with Argos and Sainsbury's, and they said, showcase the products. You know what it's all about, you know what the benefits are, you know how to sell it to your collector fans. And it was these sorts of people who took me to the premiere of the first live action movie in 2007. So it was an awesome time to be there. And I was sad when I left, but I think at the same time I had to move for my own personal career and also for my family to, you know, go on the journey that I've been on.
So that last question, I said that was the last question, but I will sneak this one in. This one isn't on the notes I sent you.
No, I know.
This isn't on. And this one is: do you ever envision or see a point where you will stop collecting?
Oh, such a hard question. No is the answer. No, I can't see myself ever stopping. I see myself getting to the stage where I, like yourself, I go through phases of my collection where I will cull bits and pieces, and I'll say, you know what, I've got too much of this, it doesn't bring me joy, or I don't appreciate it, someone else can appreciate it more than me, so I'm going to sell this section. And I've done it several times now. I collected all the alternators, I collected a bunch of masterpiece figures when they first came out, sold them off. I collected all the Unicron trilogy figures, basically everything between Generation 2 and sort of Titan's Return. I have collected all of them and I've sold them all now, but I don't think I will ever stop. I think there is always going to be a case where I'm going to want something, and I'm very lucky in the sense that with a little bit of my buying and selling, it's sort of a self-funding hobby for me, which is amazing. I mean, I don't think I would be able to buy as much as I do otherwise. It just wouldn't make any financial sense and couldn't support my family. But I think, you know, I'm very lucky in the sense that if I can keep that going, I'll still be able to pick up a few more bits, a few more Transformers, a few more Gogobots, a few more Mars figures.
It's a sensible way. It's the way that I do it. I mean, I still have funds left from sales that I did years ago. And because that's a separate thing. That's
you go through that cycle, right?
And that doesn't get touched for anything else. That's Transformers, and that's it. And then if there's bits that I want that's coming up, I'll think, right, okay, because it's the buying to replace or upgrade. Then the older ones get sold on to go towards. So it like I say, it's self-generated.
Self-funding,
You know, I've not got to a point where I have to start dipping into other areas or thinking, right, okay, this is an extra expense kind of thing, which is it's a good place to be.
Absolutely,
on the collecting side of it.
Yeah.
As for stopping, it's a question I ask myself about every 5 years. I asked when I turned 40, I thought maybe it's time for me to stop.
Sure.
But then something came up and it was like, right, okay, and it continued. Turned 45, it's like, right, I think I ought to stop now. No, something came along and kept you. Obviously, big 5-0 next year, and it's like maybe now's the time to stop, But it's like I think. Well, there's one toy company that's stopping me doing it.
Oh, yes.
That's probably Fans Toys.
Fans Toys, yeah.
Because they're useless at getting the product out.
But they keep you on your hinges, waiting for the next one to come out. Yeah,
they do. At the moment, I'm waiting for Scourge and Gears from Fans Toys, and so that'll replace my ex-Transbox Andress, and is it Grump?
Yeah, Bad Cube.
Yeah, Bad Cube Grump.
Yep.
And it'll replace those. So, will I stop? I don't know. I think if I could tap off my, I know what figures I want to replace. I want to replace X-Transbox Boost.
Yep.
So hopefully someone will do
Wind
a better
Charger.
Wind Charger. I hope Fans Toys will do Bumblebee.
Yep.
To match their parkour, their cliff jump.
Their style, yeah. Must do, yeah.
I'm just trying to think, and I think that's probably about it because I got their Brawn, I got their Huffer, so that's probably about. Oh, if Deformation Space do the cone heads,
which they should do, right? It can't be too hard to,
Hopefully. The other big one I would say would be, I'm on the fence at the moment. I'm watching with eager anticipation regarding the upcoming Devastator Wars.
Yes.
Happening. I have Toy World Constructor.
Nice.
Which I got the box set, the big box set that they did. Individually, I don't like them. They're again, I'd say they're more of a chug style. But when they're combined, they look gorgeous combined.
Yes.
That looks like a masterpiece Devastator. And it's got the size to it as well. But I'm interested to see what the other company... X-Transbots have shown their hand.
Yep.
We've yet to see Fans Toys. We've yet to see Mastermind Creations.
Sure. They do some fantastic stuff.
There's another company, but I can't remember the name.
Vectron Labs.
Is it Vectron Labs? Is it that have teased some images?
Yep.
So it's. I don't know. I'm waiting.
I'm totally there with you, and I think also Hasbro are going to do one as well. I think that's going to be their Titan for the Studio Series 86 line. I think personally.
Right. So that won't be masterpiece style or scale, then, will it?
No. It might be masterpiece. Well, it shouldn't be masterpiece scale. No, it shouldn't be. The last one they did, Combiner Wars one, was pretty big.
Right.
I don't know. I started collecting masterpiece combiners a few years ago, and he scaled well with them. So if they do the same thing again, they're all pretty much Voyager scale. Then that would fit in there, but. Like you said, they should be more generation scale, right? But Hasbro a little bit all over the place.
So we've got to that point there now. We're at the end, Rohan. So I'm just gonna say thank you. I really appreciate you coming on and chatting to us. It's been great listening to your journey and telling us about your collection and things like that. And hopefully we can do it again sometime. But for now, I just want to say thank you and all the best.
Listen, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And it's been an excellent experience, even just chewing the fat and talking Transformers and other toys and even cars as well. But absolutely loved it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. Well, listen, all the best. You take care. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll catch up soon.
And you, sir. Cheers.
All right. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Interface disengaged. Thank you for accessing the Collector's Archive. To enable return access, please select the like, subscribe, and notification icons. Initiating shutdown now.